Please welcome the Chief Content Officer of ALM Media, Molly Miller.
I feel like these simple slides really belie the guts and gore and tragedy and success of the last couple of years, mostly probably the guts and gore. So if you want to talk about that at any point, not because we just all want to just sink into that, but sometimes, I certainly could have, should have learned more before I went through this. So first of all, who is ALM? ALM was the American Lawyer Media, founded by a man named Stephen Brill in 1979. And it was focused on making financials of law firms public. So law firms are, multi-billion dollar companies that essentially have been able to do what they do very privately without their clients knowing how they make money, how partners are being paid. And so that was what our initial vision was to actually take that out to the world and help people understand how lawyers make their money. So now we have what is called the ALM Law 100, the ALM Law 200, and the National Law Journal 500. So we report on the top 500 law firms in the world. Now we also happen to have a lot of other verticals, industries by this time, but I'm going to really focus on the law today. So we really had two big challenges. We had 50 big challenges, but I'm going to focus on two big challenges. We had 19 70-year-old plus brands serving this legal market. So one market, multi-sided, but one market, and 19 brands serving them. And really not one was generating enough traffic to support advertising. It's all hybrid business model. It's both paid as well as advertising. And the paid content was really dependent upon deeply reported and expensive to produce enterprise, investigative, breaking news in the legal sector. So that was a problem. And then we were finally ready to go to one common platform. The company had acquired the URL law.com in, believe it or not, 1999, and managed not to do very much with it for many, many years. But we were finally ready, and about 2 years ago, to go to this one common platform. But really, there was no clear path to how we would monetize it. Would you simply provide access to all of those 19 brands via that platform? Is that sufficient? And then how would you get the subscribers to say, today I subscribe to the American Lawyer. Why should I care about law.com? I don't know law.com. I have no affinity with law.com. It's not a community that I recognize. I recognize the community of the American Lawyer. It's all managing partners and law firms who want to find out what each other is making. Also, competitors, which were digital first, were providing just enough law, and they were doing it in a very efficient way, hiring journalists right out of journalism school, training them for about 6 weeks, and making them pretty anonymous, but producing a lot. They had quotas. They recently unionized. So then here we are, multiple brands with unique identities served by 19 different newsrooms. So we are international. We're in Hong Kong and we're in London. We're in every major city in the US. And we have, as I said, national brands like the American Lawyer. So each of these brands were staffed with about 4 to 10 journalists, depending on the size. And as I said, they struggled to meet traffic demands, which is pretty old school. We shouldn't be worried about that, but absolutely the company was terrified about that a few years ago. Had the premium content demands, the events demands, because we are also in the events business, and that was required for each and every one of those 19 publications. Also, we had that problem that reporters, for example, in New York, were covering the same global law firm that reporters in San Francisco were covering, and they weren't talking. So it sounds pretty obvious that that's problematic. But if every unit is different and not really communicating it, you can see how that happens. And then, of course, each brand was sort of slowly dying, becoming increasingly unprofitable and unsustainable, and actually losing staff. Because we're owned by private equity, we have to watch EBITDA. So, solution. We moved to one platform with access to all the brands, served finally by one global newsroom. In January 2016, Innovation Media Consulting came on board and helped us. Again, a long process emotionally, intellectually, but in fact, in 6 months, we launched our global newsroom, June 2016. So we took the concept of those brand editors, we kept the brand editors, but we put it to one brand editor and perhaps a managing editor, and then created the theme desks to serve all of those brands, to serve digitally, and then to be packaged into print and other products, which we will talk about. We produce now over 200 stories a day. We've launched the new law.com platform actually just as recently as November of last year. We actually launched the global newsroom before we launched all the associated and necessary products and user experiences for our readers. And then we also went to one common CMS. So we're now at the point where we're releasing new products every couple of months. The other piece to this, which I think is just interesting relative to the advertising challenge of individual brands, is on law.com, we organized tag, of course, like everyone does, by topic. But I think we were a little surprised that advertisers jumped on that so quickly and wanted to sponsor topics across everything, across the run of network, across the brands, focusing on specific brands and audiences. And what was interesting about that is that their spend went from about $20,000 to $175,000. And we're seeing that on average is what's happening now. It's still relatively new, but that is definitely the trend that we're seeing. And I can't help but obviously always remind myself and all of us that we're really here for paid content, reader revenue, events, and building of that community. So that community is really still brought around to the brand and that brand audience, but they're part of a larger community and they all see each other on law.com. But there was that problem that once you're on this common platform, I think the organization had the misconception that people would simply see other content and say, oh, I want that, so I'm just going to subscribe. And I think we probably all know, after lots of guts and gore stories, that just simply doesn't work that way. And so editorial actually came forward and said, we really need to develop something very unique that will really attract people to law.com. And it has to be very concrete. Lawyers are incredibly literal people. And so you have to actually give them something very clear, definable, something they can look at and share. It can't be a concept or an idea. So we did do that. But first, in order to get there, we really deconstructed the situation and we said, okay, so what are our assets? Reporters with deep understanding of the legal market, the court system, the regulatory frameworks globally, and the business of law. The business of law was really how we were born. We had strong brands with rich histories and deep connections within their communities. And then the challenges. We had not enough reporters and editors. We had cut over the years because of these problems that I have described. And competitors, which I also mentioned, were really providing this high volume of thinly reported but just good enough legal developments. So we decided to really leverage the journalists. And we almost made the journalists the brands and create a series of what are reporter-led dispatches. Editorial actually called them dispatches. Marketing actually hated the word dispatches and called them briefings, which I don't think that's very original, but that's what they're called. They're only available if you purchase an all-access pass to that network. And they're really this navigated tour of the most important developments. It's really a lot of what we heard earlier today about voice and trust. The reporter is first above brand, but curates and translates across all the brands, has voice and attitude, defies all the gravitational pulls to do what competitors are doing. So we're really doing the opposite of what competitors are doing. And we really looked at every competitor and saw that essentially that was what they were trying to do, is simply give the sort of the bare minimum, but in very high volume. In law, completeness is really important, and we understand that. But really what you want to know is what is most important, and you want to know from someone whom you can trust. I will just say a couple of notes on these dispatches. For example, we have the Trump Watch, of course. I think reporters sometimes come to a company like ALM thinking that they will get weekends off. It's no longer true with Trump in office, so it's definitely the Trump Watch is 24/7. We also have the law firm Disrupted. These are just a couple of the examples, but it's a really great way for us to tell the world what's happening with, for example, this complete transformation that's going on in the legal industry that you don't have to know to follow along, but I will always be happy to talk about it. We also use some ideas from innovation media. We use many, many ideas from innovation media. We launched, within a few months of the global newsroom, we launched the Morning Minute, which has been one of our most successful devices for drawing new audiences, young audiences. But also something called Instant Insights, and this is on law.com. It's essentially taking content that lives in a brand digitally and packaging it up in new ways for new audiences. So you would think that no one really cares about what's going on in Texas except Texas lawyers, but obviously if there's something really big happening in Texas, bigger in Texas, people want to know about that. So we're able to, on the fly, pull together content from all of the brands into new packages. And actually, we found that sponsors are really interested in supporting those. In this case, Texas law firms who want exposure across the globe. So what we learned, no additional investment in year one by using our expert reporters. They're still delivering their dailies and their enterprise, and it was important for us to prove what we could do with our existing staff, and that has worked. We do peel off stories from the briefings or the dispatches and put them into the digital experience for readers to give a taste, and also ensure that we're constantly adding some new thought and more voice. We created a new product desk. So obviously when we started, we thought every desk would be able to do this, but we found that wasn't true. Now, we haven't created a newspaper desk, but we've definitely created new innovation product idea desk with just a few people, and then the rest of the newsroom, 65 journalists really supporting the day-to-day operation. And I guess if I were to say where some of that gut and gore came from, it was really being able to balance that. We also did do a lot of beta tests. This may be a sign of how immature we are still in our development, but we had to do a lot that didn't involve IT because of the distraction of IT in terms of our transformation as a company. And so we used our own beta testing platforms, and that worked really well. That really motivated the reporters to do more and more because they could actually see what was happening in real time. We killed off several, so that's definitely something that we all know to do. And we're not afraid to showcase junior reporters. I think that was a big concern that the company had, that these people are going to leave. And my sense was that that's great. It's actually great if we've given them a platform and they use it and they're able to go on to something else. And in fact, that's happened. But we've also been able to attract new reporters because they see what we're doing and they see that we really value journalism. So the results, our average open rates for our newsletters is about 23% with 1.5% click-through rate. These are averaging 40% open rates. Sometimes we are literally on one day we saw 100% open rate on our state-of-the-art intellectual property dispatch. We're also growing our audience about 13% a week, and it's really skewing much younger. As you can imagine, knowing where we came from, our audience tends to be 50-plus year old white managing partners. So we've been trying to shake that up for quite a while, and we're really seeing that this device really resonates, along with Morning Minute and some of the other products. We are holding regular engagement events so that we are able to have those reporters and editors talking to readers. So we do those calls, sometimes as low-tech as conference calls, talking about a topic, and people call in and ask questions. We are hearing from candidates recruiting is getting easier, that they are seeing, as I mentioned, what we're doing, and the applicant pool is really widening. And we're beta testing on our next series. We're launching next week one on cannabis called Higher Law. So I know I'm going to run out of time. So finally, what's difficult is the move to one platform. It's even more difficult to find an incentive for the upsell. I think that was a really critical piece for the company. And then really the most difficult for me running the editorial organization is really balancing what we need to do daily to support this transformation, as well as ensure that we're constantly building new and launching new products. Thank you.
Molly, thank you. I mean, particularly interesting statistic there about that increase in revenue per advertiser when they could advertise across channels by using tags. Just very quickly, did you have to create new technology to allow them to do that, or was that already possible for them to sponsor content across platforms?
It was actually already possible. We just refined it.
Just made them aware it was there.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you.